Hey, this is Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I am here with my wife and my partner and my friend of 32 years. Well, my friend for 32 years, my wife for 25 this Sunday. How are you, sweetheart?
I'm really excited that we are going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Me too. Congratulations to us.
It is. I love it.
Part of our mission going into the second third of our marriage is to help other people to make a difference while they make a living and make a living while they make a difference, right?
Yes.
And interestingly, you'd think that that would be acceptable to everybody, but there's a lot of kind of internal obstacles that people experience when they think about, well, should I really be making money for helping people? And is it okay? Is it okay with who I am as a person? Is it okay with who I am spiritually? Is it okay with my goals and ethics and integrity? And the people around me, are they going to think badly of me? And there's a whole host of issues that come up when you think about making a difference while you're making a living.
You want to hear my theory about it?
Yeah, of course I do.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they're helping others, feel some discomfort about taking money for it. And I think it's because that kind of nurturing and caregiving is part of the mother archetype. There's a mother archetype and a father archetype. And mother stays home, takes care of the children, and does it selflessly. Whereas father goes out, goes on the hunt. We talk about bringing home the bacon, right? So there is a reward for that work. But with mother, there is no payment.
In a very classical, traditional, primitive sense, the masculine part of us, and there's a masculine part in both men and women, is the part that goes out for the hunt and gets rewarded for the kill. But staying home and taking care of babies and
raising the family and cooking.
Which in our modern world could translate to people helping others to realize their potential in their life, to listening, having conversations, having relationships, coaching other people.
Teaching, mentoring,
sharing people's life experience so that other people don't have to go through the trials and tribulations and pain that they went through. All of that is more traditionally. We're not saying in today's modern society with values and everything that's only the role of women, but there's a part of us that feels like it might be.
The feminine side feels like it's supposed to give without taking, and the masculine side is allowed to be paid for the work.
I think there's another side of all this.
Let's hear.
I think that when we consider making money for helping other people, it goes against this side of us that says, well, we shouldn't have to pay to be loved. And if we shouldn't have to pay for love, then we should give love freely to everybody in every way without asking anything back from ourselves.
That's the mother. I agree with you 100%.
But those primitive archetypes or those primitive ways of being don't necessarily fit into the idea of helping others through coaching or team building, or even in some ways setting up an organization that goes out and solves problems for other people, or it doesn't always fit in.
Well, it doesn't make sense. When we help other people to grow, of course you should be remunerated for that. I mean, why not? They're not really our children. You do it for your children.
There are lots of reasons that people feel like they shouldn't. One of them is that I am being motherly and mothers don't get paid for their motherly work, so why should I? The other that I just mentioned is
the love.
Right? You feel like you're being paid for love and that's wrong. Whereas there's another part of us that says, oh my God, if I could live a life where I was reimbursed for giving love and spreading the word and helping others through my mission. Why are you smiling at me?
I want to hear how you're going to finish the sentence.
Isn't there a part of us that feels like it's a dream rather than to be paid for doing a job that we're not necessarily happy with or can't imagine doing the rest of our lives, to be paid to do something that we love to do that really helps other people and that we're really good at?
And that the people that we help will go on and do something great and pass it along.
But isn't there a part of you that feels like you don't deserve that? Isn't there a part of you that feels like that's a wrong way to live?
Yeah, I mean, for all those reasons that we said. Like, it feels like in the perfect world, we wouldn't have to worry about money and everybody would have everything and we would just give to each other and love each other. It would be some kind of utopia where money wasn't an issue because everybody had everything they wanted and needed. It's all right there. It's like the Garden of Eden. You grab a piece of fruit and there it is. We don't live in that kind of world.
Right. And in the real world, you need money for your cause. And if you're really going to make a difference, you need to be able to pay the bills. You need to be able to have money to kind of help get the word out about what you're doing. You need to be able to have money to eat. You need to be able to have money to pay for electricity, do some promotion. You need money for a lot of things.
And there's another part to it also. You know, I did the Reiki training with my teacher, Melanie, and there's a story about, I can never remember the doctor's name. There was a Japanese doctor who started the whole Reiki thing, and he would do all this healing of people, and he would do it for free. And they came back. They would get healed, and they would come back. And he discovered that when he charged, they got healed, and they stayed healed. Whereas if he didn't, it didn't take, because they didn't value it.
Right. So there are people who will not accept help if they feel like they're not paying for it.
I think pretty much that's a more ubiquitous concept than not, that we have a sense of value for something that we've exchanged something for. And sometimes the more it costs, the more we value it, I think.
That's been my experience as well in working with thousands of people over the years. It's unfortunate in some ways because there are people who want to give of themselves for free and will give indefinitely of themselves for free, and unfortunately don't have the same impact as they could.
They take advantage of it, and they take it for granted.
Early on, when I was trying to supervise you to be a coach and make a living as a coach, I don't know if people know on this list that you really have made a lot of money doing helpful things for large organizations. And you have no trouble charging large amounts to large organizations, but you've always felt guilty about charging individuals.
Right, and I end up usually doing it for very little.
But if you look at the consequence of that, most of your energy has wound up helping large organizations, right?
It's true.
If you could be more comfortable charging individuals, then more of your energy would have gone into helping individuals.
That's true. That's very true.
So that's a point that I wanted to make. I also think that part of the discomfort people have with making money for making a difference in people's lives is that they just associate marketing and sales with a kind of slimy used car salesman image. They can't get themselves to ask. They just don't feel comfortable when it comes to asking for money in exchange for their services. Even if they think they do deserve it, even if they get over all these other reasons, it just kind of got a bad image. And the way I usually help people with that is to say, look, I was brought up in a family of 17 psychologists and psychotherapists and social workers and counselors. And when I was 16, everybody else, all my friends, couldn't wait to turn 16 so they could get a car or at least get a license. And my parents told me I was 16, I can go to therapy. And I went, oh boy, I can't wait.
That is so funny.
So the way this relates to that family is that I actually kind of drifted away after getting my degree and working with hundreds of people at that point. I actually drifted away and spent some time learning about marketing and sales. And since that point, I've always been treated like the black sheep of the family. It's as if I sold my soul. And
I think you're exaggerating, but I know how you feel about it.
Well, I am, but it leads to a conversation at dinners and family events and things where they'll talk about how unethical marketing can be. And I'll say, listen, what is counseling? Counseling is influencing people with words in their best interest. And what's ethical marketing? Ethical marketing is influencing people with words in their best interest.
I love that. I love that.
On a larger scale. They're very, very similar. And the key point is whether you're an ethical person and you have an ethical goal for what you're trying to influence people with.
And an ethical product and service. I think that's a major point and something that makes a real difference in how you view yourself and whether or not you can charge.
Right. As a middle-aged guy at this point who's worked with literally thousands of individuals, I have a couple of things I wanted to say about making a living, making a difference. I'm primarily talking about kind of entering the helping professions, which you don't have to have a 10-year postgraduate degree to do. If you have experience in particular parts of life, particular problems that you want to help people with, as long as you are not diagnosing and treating and promising to cure people of medical problems or psychiatric problems, there's nothing wrong with you entering the helping profession as a coach.
You know, you're saying helping profession. There are so many versions of it. You know, I'm working right now with a woman who's a wedding planner, and she really helps people. But it's a huge deal to create a party for 100 people or 200 people. It's even a bigger deal. And there are little things that need to be handled. And the bride, you know, who's usually responsible for this party, you know, maybe her mom is helping. You have no idea. I had no idea how many different things had to be taken care of to make it go smoothly so that everybody has a nice time and the bride and groom get to be honored and respected and helped into the community as a new couple who are starting a new family. There are so many things. I mean, it's not necessarily what you would consider a helping profession, but it really is. She spends a year with a bride coaching her through her wedding. Now, I don't think she considers herself a coach. She probably calls herself a wedding planner, but she is a coach.
And she's going to have a lot of interpersonal skills to do that, and she charges for it, and she makes a living.
Yeah, it's a very valuable service.
It's a very good point. So the point I want to say is I really believe the less willing and the less comfortable you are to charge for your help, the less help you're able to give. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me because...
Well, we don't live in a society where people just drop off a chicken on your doorstep as a way to say thanks for the help you provide.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
And it's like the banker and your landlord doesn't say at the end of the month, oh, hey, you've been helping people. That's great. You're a really good person. There's absolutely no need for you to pay your mortgage or pay your rent this month.
That's a good point.
Nobody ever says that. If you don't charge enough, then you have to work with too many people to give any one of them your full attention, to give them your genuine love or interest. It's incredibly difficult to focus on helping any one person if all you can think about is how to pay your bills. And if you don't have enough money coming in, you can't pay for advertising to spread the word. You can't hire other people to get behind you with your mission.
And you don't feel as confident in yourself. So when you're actually doing the work, because you've got all these other things pulling at you, you can't be centered, you can't be full in your ability to help at that time.
Right. And you won't be able to attract good enough people to work with you. Some people might argue with me about this and say that there's a lot of people who are willing to do things for free. And that's true if you have a strong enough mission. But I would argue you could attract a lot more good people if they could afford to pay their bills because you can pay them well.
And if you think about it, I'm thinking right now about this nonprofit organization that I belong to, and people come in and out of there volunteering. And the volunteers, some of them do really good work, and others are there because they have nothing else to do at the moment because they're between jobs. They give a shoddy job. I hate to say it, but they do. I think it's true that the reward for the work, whatever the work is, does make a difference. It does make a difference in the quality of the people you work with and in the quality of the actual work itself. If I'm not being paid for what I do, then maybe I'm not really valuable. My own sense of value and sense of worth and what I do, I might not take it as seriously because I don't have the confidence to be paid for it.
Right. Money does get perverted in our society, and some of the things that people will pay a fortune for as compared to the value they really contribute to society are really kind of strange. Like the obscene amount that baseball players make, or some celebrities, or like a lot of perversions and drugs and things that people pay a lot of money for. So it's not like getting money is the only way that you could know whether something is really valuable. But when you are working really hard to help people and you get no money, you're like, hey. But when you're working really hard to help people and a chunk of change shows up at your door, it is validating. It does make you feel like, wow, I should do more of this.
Well, because it helps you have a better life. And when you have a better life, then you can give the people that you're helping a better life.
This other piece is a little more difficult for me because I wasn't really brought up as a religious person, but as a psychologist and a coach who's worked with so many people, I've got some insights into the types of things that hold people back. And so I'm perfectly willing to admit that I'm an amateur at this.
But you're a highly ethical person.
Oh, I'm a highly ethical person, and I'm a very educated person about human relations. I just don't want people to think that I'm an expert on religion. I'm just picking a couple of quotes that I think are important to consider. The bottom line is I think if anybody were to go ask their pastor or their rabbi or their imam, is it all right? Is it okay if I charge for my services? I think the answer you'd probably get is, look, as long as you're not gouging people, as long as you're really charging a reasonable amount for what you're providing, I think you need to charge for your services because you got to feed your family. You got to live. And I can't imagine an ethical rabbi or priest or minister or pastor or imam or any religious leader saying that there was a problem with that. I think that the quotation in the Bible about money being the root of all evil, when you examine it a little more closely, it has more to do with the love of money being the root of all evil. And if you fall in love with money for money's sake, you can kind of lose your way. But I think the kind of help we're talking about is just the opposite of that. The kind of help we're talking about is loving money for the power it gives you to help other people and to feed your family and to feel comfortable while you're doing that. I think that is right directed. I think that's right lifing. I think that's the way that people need to move. I also think that money is morally neutral. It's really not good or bad in and of itself. It's really what you do with it. I used to work in Wall Street's backyard in Syosset, Long Island, and I've worked with a lot of very, very high-level executives at some of the Wall Street firms and some of the other Fortune 500 firms. And what I can tell you is that rich people can do good with their money or they can do bad with their money.
And so can poor people.
And so can poor people.
And some poor people do worse things than rich people.
Some poor people do very bad things with the money they do, and they feel desperate and they do desperate things to try to get money.
You know, that would be really interesting to see. What are the percentages of people who do really nasty things? And we can define those as killing people or hurting people or abusing people or taking advantage of people. Have you ever seen any statistics about that? Like the lower class, the middle class, the upper class? How much gouging and hurting? And I wonder what it is. You find good people and bad people in all economic levels.
Not that I spend my life associating with criminals, but as a psychologist, sometimes people pass by your circles like that.
But I'm really curious now what these statistics would be.
I'm curious too. Maybe we can look it up.
The reason I'm saying that is sometimes I think that we have this imagination that poor people are good and rich people are bad, and it's really not true.
On either side.
Exactly.
Here's another perspective. There's a lot of money out there, and the way our economic system works, basically a few idiots wind up with most of it. And if there's going to be people that have a lot of money, and you know in your heart that you're a good person with moral aims for that money, good things you would do for it for the world, isn't it better that you get it than let the idiots out there get it that are going to do bad with it?
Well, the thing of it is that you're not going to get the idiot's amount because all of us who like to do good in the world, we're going to make a certain amount of money, but we're not going to be filthy rich. And we don't want to be filthy rich.
So for the most part, what I'm trying to teach people is I want to teach them a method for making a living as a self-employed person helping other people. That's really what I'm trying to teach them. They don't really have to strive after millions and millions, but the natural end, if they really learn how to do it and stay with it for years and kind of organize people underneath them for the people that want to do that, there's a select few that could make a lot. And I would rather they made it than some of the people I've run into in my previous life.
That are gluttonous and uncaring. I'm glad I don't know any of those people. You spared me that.
How do you get paid to help people? I've got a 3-word answer, an answer I'm particularly good at teaching people, which is be a coach. People will say to me, but don't I have to have all this experience? Don't I have to have a degree? And you really don't. There's a lot of successful coaches out there that don't even have college degrees. I think that you need to have the confidence that you're able to connect with people. You need to have the confidence that you know how to draw them out. You need to have the confidence that you could help them solve a particular problem that you specialize in. One of the things I tell people is you don't just go advertise and say, well, I'm a coach. You say, I'm a sugar addiction specialist and I've got a 3-step process for getting you off chocolate in 30 days or less. And those types of things are much more appealing to people. And if everybody thinks about something that they've solved, maybe they manage to get off chocolate. By the way, if you are a sugar addiction specialist and you can get me off chocolate in 30 days or less, I want to talk to you. You know what I mean? I love the phrase share and spare. And I got that from you because you've previously been the president of some large organizations and you've done a lot of networking and mentoring. And could you talk to me about where the phrase share and spare comes from?
Last year, I did a research project for the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association. And this is a group of professional women who work in healthcare. And they come together at different levels. So you've got women who've been in the business for a number of years, and then women who are coming in who are rather new. Maybe they've been in the business for 5 years, maybe up to 10, whereas the other women have been in it for 20 years or more. The women who like to mentor or be there for the other women love to share their experiences as they've risen in leadership roles within their organizations or within their careers. And part of that is because they know, and you kind of mentioned it before, they know what they went through. And especially these are women, so they've made it in pharmaceutical corporations, in other healthcare establishments, in a man's world. And women, because we tend to be more the nurturers and stepping back, and it's harder for women in a man's world to make it through the steps to leadership. A lot of these women who've risen, in hospitals and all kinds of organizations, figured out, and they were mentored themselves, but they figured out, and they made a lot of mistakes along the way, so they know what to avoid, and they want to spare these young women the mistakes they made. And I think that's a very human and mature thing to want to do.
I mean, youth is not the only population that we can work with, but I think that it's a very innate feeling within us to want to help the next generation.
Right. But think about it, because that next generation, it's the next generation of people who need to learn a particular thing. So in terms of coaching, you can be new to a topic. You can be in your 40s, but still new to something in your life that you need a coach for. Like, what if all of a sudden you decided you wanted to be a writer and you've had all this other experience? A 30-year-old who is an established writer could teach a 45-year-old. So they could be coached by someone younger than them.
Right. It's a matter of maturity within a specific field or problem.
Area of experience.
I love that. And so I think we've all got the desire to share and spare, right?
Well, I think if we are normal, healthy human beings, there's a piece of us that wants to give back.
And I've met very, very young women who were pregnant teenagers and want to help even younger women go through the experience of making the right decisions while they're pregnant teenagers.
Isn't that sweet?
Right? I mean, it's a very, very difficult time. I know a guy who plays chess very well, and he figured out an analogy for inner city children, mostly boys, to think about chess as a way to conquer your own territory legally within the rules of the game. And he got people out of gangs and kind of helped them get out of the inner city. I've got an interview with him. Maybe I'll put that in the sequence someplace. Jane Fonda wound up funding him for a while anyway. There's just no end to the types of problems you can help people with. You can help couples in troubled marriages. You don't necessarily have to be a couples therapist. You can just be someone that has had the experience and can be a sounding board and share some advice.
I know a singing coach, a voice coach, that teaches people to express through the use of their voice. Not for them to become entertainers, but
to emote?
Yeah. And to be more powerful in giving speeches. That they're not singing their speeches. I was an example for him. He called me up on stage. I was at a big meeting, and he called me up on stage, and he had me think about what I wanted to communicate that was scary, and then he had me sing it. And I had the most incredible experience, because usually if you're looking at it, a group of 300 people, 400 people, they usually say, pick one person and look at that person that you feel comfortable with. When I was doing this singing, and I was kind of like singing from my heart, I don't know how else to explain it, I saw every eyeball in the room. It was the wildest experience.
There's this woman at the deli, and she's nervous when she talks to me. I think I intimidate her for some reason. I don't know why. So when she's like talking to me, she's really shy. But as she goes to ring up the order, I usually get some poached egg whites in the morning, and she'll go, 1093, please. And then she's got a big smile, and she's got no nerves whatsoever.
She sings it.
She sings it.
That's so funny.
I kind of joke with her about it. I said, so you're singing? And she said, oh, I'm always singing. The lesson there is that you could think about your talents and experiences and think beyond the normal box that you think in about how you could help people for that and what it would be worth for them to do that. You know, you can be a coach to others in their businesses. I actually do a lot of business coaching at this point because I've spent a lot of time in both business and relational coaching. So I do actually a little more business coaching lately than personal coaching.
That's relationship coaching too, isn't it?
There's no way that people can really make money without in some way exchanging value with other people. The ability to help people with their relationships inevitably is linked to helping them make more money. The more directly you can make that link obvious to them, the more you could charge for your services. Like, one of the reasons that just plain old relationship coaches don't necessarily make the same amount of money as a straight business coach, even though it's equally, if not more valuable, is because it's not clear to the people while they're being coached early on how this can translate to
doing better in the world.
Right. There are things like academic coaching for parents with children that are struggling with their grades. Even simple things like how to be a better golfer, how to hike in the winter, how to be a candlestick maker, how to knit better. There are all sorts of things that people can and do get paid to coach other people to do. And it's really just a matter of who's the audience you work with and what is the method to your madness, what's your experience, and can you articulate that in a coherent way that has kind of like a step-by-step process with it, and learning a coaching structure and a coaching system that you can implement to turn that into a living while you're making a difference in the way you want to make a difference.
I love that. You know what I was thinking also with the examples you just gave? People are almost more willing to pay for like knitting and crocheting lessons or like ice skating lessons than they are for dealing with an emotional problem. That's interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's sad.
Yeah.
Well, my dear, we'll talk more about that another time and how to solve that, because I definitely have solutions for that.
Terrific.
And thank you very much.
Well, this was great.
In just 12 weeks, you can become a certified professional coach, confident in your ability and fully equipped to grow a thriving practice from anywhere or your money back. My name is Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about taking your coaching dreams a lot more seriously, about getting the right certification and training, and about developing the confidence to deliver stellar results time after time so your clients will accomplish their goals, others will notice, and get referred back to you. I'll hope you forgive my modesty while we talk, because my wife and I have more combined experience in both coaching and business development than virtually any other program on the market. I've personally worked with over 1,000 clients and supervised dozens of coaches and therapists. Sharon's done literally thousands of groups and team-building workshops, and together we've sold more than $20 million in consulting. We've had our previous work, research, and theories covered in major media like the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Sun-Times, ABC and CBS Radio, the Wall Street Journal, New York Daily News, and many more. So we have the confidence in our ability to train and certify you as a coach and give you the know-how to build the practice of your dreams. In fact, we're so confident, we're willing to guarantee it right through the end of the very last class. If you don't feel our training was your best choice for any reason, just show us you attended at least 3/4 of the classes and did at least 75% of the assignments. We will refund every penny that you paid. When you compare our experience, guarantee, and more affordable than most pricing, we think your choice will be clear. But if you're like most coaches, you're probably a little skeptical, maybe a lot. You see a lot of limitations and obstacles, and I'd like to talk about them with you because most of them are self-imposed. For example, you might think it's not really possible to earn a living as a professional coach. Maybe you think there's too much competition. But did you know that as of this recording, there were only about 20,000 active coaches in North America? That's less than one coach for every 15,000 people. Of course, not every one of those 15,000 people is in the market for a coach, but coaching has become ever more acceptable and interesting thanks to reality shows like The Biggest Loser, The Voice, dancing shows, singing shows, et cetera, et cetera. Every one of the contestants gets a coach, and the audience gets to see the value firsthand as they progress. More importantly, most coaches ignore the immense value of niching. There's literally hundreds of coaching niches to choose from, and when you do niche, you dramatically lower your competition and raise your odds of success. For example, where there may be 20,000 active coaches overall in North America, how many adoption coaches do you think there are? What about coaches who specialize in chocolate addiction? By the way, I could use one of those. Family business, academic achievement, and you don't have to marry any of these niches either. You just try one on to size, learn the skills, and transfer them to whatever suits your fancy later on. But here's another self-imposed limitation. Many people think it's simply not possible to earn a living as a coach.
Well, you can visit becomearealcoach.com
to see detailed studies which suggest the average active coach earns about $55,000 per year. Of course, there are coaches who make a lot more and coaches who make a lot less. And it would be unreasonable to assume just getting certified will automatically give you this income. Your income as a coach will depend upon many things, including the niche you choose. For example, working with affluent couples to help them adopt is likely to be more lucrative than helping disabled veterans adjust to life at home. Not any more meaningful, fulfilling, or soulful, but definitely more profitable. The environment you work in will also influence your income. Private practice versus a salaried employee, etc. The number of hours you choose to fill. Nobody says you have to work full time. The fees that you're comfortable charging. There's a lot of coaches out there that don't want to charge as much as they really could charge. The business model that you choose, in other words, individual coaching versus selling books, tapes, seminars, groups, and events for more leveraged and passive income. The seriousness of the problem that you specialize in. How desperate are your clients to solve it? How meaningful and valuable is the solution? For example, it's easier to earn more as an adoption coach than a yoga coach for this very reason. And your income also depends upon how much effort you put into attracting clients. But most importantly, in our experience, your income is related to your coaching confidence and ability to produce stellar results for your clients. Or maybe the obstacle stopping you from taking your coaching dreams to the next level is wondering whether you need a professional background in therapy or counseling. But you don't, because coaching isn't therapy. So you won't get involved in diagnosing, treating, or curing any type of mental illness. And we'll teach you how to clearly draw the line and skillfully refer clients who require a licensed professional. When in doubt, refer it out is our motto. Coincidentally, many of these professionals who you refer to can become a good resource of referrals back into your network. Maybe you're not sure if you're worthy of coaching. Maybe you think you don't have enough experience, or you're just not credible enough to coach people professionally, or that you don't have the expertise. When people tell me this, I tell them that they're asking the wrong question. You see, if you're willing to put your heart and soul into helping someone, if you're willing to give them your undivided attention on a regular or semi-regular basis until they reach their goal, if you're willing to make them a priority in your life in exchange for a reasonable payment, then the real question is, you should be asking, are these clients worthy of me? Because you see, you've only got a limited amount of time, energy, and love to give these people, so you've got to protect your practice. The real question is, are they worthy of you? Maybe you don't think you have the time to become a certified professional coach, but if you can make 4 or 5 hours a week, which is under an hour a day, for just a few months, you can definitely become a certified professional coach in our program. And there are many, many ways to start a coaching practice on a part-time schedule. We know most coaches have very busy lives even before they begin. And because we actually like coaches who are out there living real lives, we work hard to accommodate them. Coaching is more about experience and the desire to share and spare than it is about book knowledge. Maybe you think you can't afford it.
But our program is much more affordable than most other live interactive certification programs, and we've got financing options to suit any budget. Besides, coaching is one of the least expensive businesses to start because you can work with people all over the world via telephone, Skype, and the internet. So there's really no need for office space, rent, or other overhead. And we'll show you how to make a safe transition plan so you can carefully plan your move from another job with a great deal of confidence when the time is right. Because you are the product, this is another reason why coaching is easier to get into and less expensive, because you are the product. Many of the traditional costs associated with starting a business, like inventory or research and development, production cost, they just simply disappear. So, at the risk of appearing self-serving, a better question than, can you really afford to do this, is, can you really afford not to do it? Finally, perhaps you think you're going to be a great coach, but you're too allergic to marketing to do anything about it. And if you feel this way, it's likely because you've been taught the wrong things about marketing. You're probably thinking of used car salesmen, cold calling, constant rejection, and constant lies. And nobody's taken the time to find out what marketing methods really suit your personality. Remember, Sharon and I have more combined experience in both coaching and business development than virtually any other certification program on the market. That means we've got the flexibility to help virtually any coach who wants it bad enough. You can check out our website at becomearealcoach.com for more details about our personal biographies. But for now, just trust me when I say if you don't like public speaking, there's no problem. If you hate making cold calls, there's no problem. If you can't even stand the idea of making a website, there's no problem because we'll show you how to market in a way that's comfortable for you. Now, by this point, you may actually be wondering what happens in the certification program itself. Again, you can visit becomearealcoach.com to read the details, but in a nutshell, our program is largely about the experience of being a coach and not the academic. Each week, you'll meet live with your instructor and your peers and have the experience of practicing that week's coaching or business development lesson with everybody in the group. You'll get detailed feedback from your master coach instructor, and you'll get additional feedback from your peers. And here's an important benefit most people don't think of. You'll get a chance to observe and learn from the other coaches in training. Then, after each event, you'll download a brief set of materials which prepare you for the following week and include an action challenge. So in short, first you practice with your peers, then you watch, read, or listen to us describe what you just experienced, and finally you do it on your own outside of class so you can integrate the learning. Practice, study, then do. It's really that simple in less than an hour a day. There's quite a bit more to know. So you'll want to visit becomearealcoach.com as soon as you can. But the most important thing to remember is that in just 12 weeks, you really can become a certified professional coach, confident in your ability, and fully equipped to grow a thriving practice from anywhere or your money back. Head on over to becomearealcoach.com now. Classes fill quickly, so please book your slot today if you're at all interested. Thanks.